Now today we'll apply what all the concepts that we've learned by building a small project, a to-do list application, and then this project will incorporate modern JavaScript features, DOM manipulation as well, document object model manipulation, event handling, local storage, and so much more. So basically all the things, most of the things that we've learned. We'll also use Bootstrap 5 to style our application. Okay, Bootstrap 5 is a CSS framework. So instead of writing our own CSS, we're just gonna use the CSS framework. All right. Now, the first thing that we need to do is to so now what the project will do for us or allow you to do application will allow users to add new tasks, to mark task as completed, and then delete task and then persist task in the local storage. All right. Now, on the project structure, we'll actually add a new file called index.html. Okay. Now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna initialize our project. We're gonna go to the terminal, new terminal, and then we type there npm init, and then enter npm init. So it means initialize. This means we want to initialize our project. So you'll see it's gonna create a new file called package.json. All right, and then we need to install some dependencies. So we will install npm install. Let me just make this bigger as well. You can see, let's just increase it. It could be, so that's npm install, and then save dev, and then add bubble call, and then add bubble CLI, and then bubble loader, and then we also need to install webpack and then webpack CLI. Then what we need to do is to create a new file. So we're gonna say new item, and the file is gonna be, the name is gonna be dot a bubble. So this is gonna be a configuration file, and then we enter. Then in this file we need to actually initialize it. You can actually see it here, and we need to initialize it we're gonna put some presets. Now we need to create a web file configuration, a webpack file configuration, or a webpack.conf file. So again, we'll add new item, all right. Then here is our file here, which is webpack.config.js. So this line you will import a path module, which is a core Node.js module, and then the path module provides utilities for working with a file and directory path, right? Now this line here, it actually imports the path module, which is the core Node.js module, and then the path module provides utilities for working with file and directory path. And then by using require path, we can use its function just to handle the functions to handle the file path in a way that works on any system. All right, and then this one module exports. Um, this line will export an object, making it available for use in other files. All right. So in the context of a build tool like Webpack, so this object is a configuration object that tells Webpack how to behave, and then the um, the entry index.js is it's a property that specifies the entry point of the application. So this is the file where the webpack starts building all dependencies. In our case, it's gonna be index.js, and then uh, the output here, um, it defines where and how the bungled files will be output. All right, so inside of the output there's two properties, the file name and then which is the bangle.js. So this actually specifies the name of the output file after Webpack processes all the module, and then it will bangle them into a file called bangle.js. And then resolve path.resolve directory and dist, it combines the current directory. So by using the underscore die name with dist, this is to create an absolute path to the dist directory. So this is actually a Node.js variable that represents the directory name of the current module. All right, and then the module rules, it contains the rules that define how different types of modules or files will be treated. So inside the rules, we have an array of objects. You can actually see, remember the square block represents an array. All right. So we've got an array of a rule objects, and then the test. So this line here, this is a regular expression to test the types, the file types. So the /.js dollar, it's a regular expression that matches any file that is ending with .js. You see, now we're checking all the files that are JavaScript file. You understand? So meaning we will exclude the HTML, we're gonna exclude the Babel RC, or so we're checking all the files that end with JS, and then exclude. That means we want to the property. This property tells Webpack to ignore all the files under this directory, node modules. All right, so we don't want to transpile these files as they are a third party libraries. So in here you'll see that we even have Bootstrap. Remember, we installed a Bootstrap. There is Bootstrap here. All right, so these are third party um, libraries, and then use loader Bible. Uh, so this will specify the loader to use for files that match the test conditions. So and then Babel loader is a loader for Webpack that uses Babel to transpile JavaScript files. So Babel allows us to use modern JavaScript features that may not be supported in all browsers. All right, like I explained yesterday. All right, because you get users that are still using Internet Explorer. You see, so we want to support that. You don't want an application whereby it can't be used in all the browsers. So this is just a Webpack configuration file that just sets up a Webpack to start bundling from the index.js, and then the output will be a file named bangle.js placed in a directory called dist. Webpack will process all JS files, excluding those in the node modules, using Babel loader, which transpiles the code so that it can run in environments that do not support the latest JavaScript features. So this is just a configuration that will actually help us to automate the process of bundling our JavaScript files and ensures the compatibility across different environments. So I think what we need to do, we can make a folder, make directory. So it's make mk directory. Let's call it src. And then in src, we can just right click and add a new file called index.js. Now let's go ahead and create our, let's go to our index.html. index.html and start working on the index.html. So we're going to put the HTML structure, and then we need to actually go to this URL. Just say get Bootstrap. So you can just search the get Bootstrap, and then you can go to this the first website on the result, which is Bootstrap, getbootstrap.com, and then you can copy this and then just paste it below the title, and then we can actually type the to-do list, to do list. So this is the title of our application, and then here we need to get a file called a dist, in a dist, and then the file called bangle.js, bangle.js. And then let's start building our JavaScript file. So I'm just gonna go ahead and minimize that part. So we're gonna start building our HTML5. So the first thing that we're gonna have, we need to have a container. We can do maybe with a margin top of 5. So all of these classes are actually Bootstrap classes, right? So if I show you, if we go to Bootstrap, and we can just go to docs, and then let's say we're looking for containers, and then we can actually see how we can use the containers as well. So meaning a container will give us all of these points. All right. Okay, so container, and then we have h1 here with the class text center. And then we can just say to do list. Now we can actually have a look and see how it looks like. All right, and then in here we're gonna have a form with an ID of to do form, and then a class of mp3. And then here within the form, let me just zoom out a little bit. So within a form, we're going to have the input group, and then we're just going to have the input that is type of text, and that has the class of form control. And we can say it's required. Now again, if we look at it, then we have something like this. See, now what Bootstrap allows us to do, we actually have a nice form there. We don't have to apply CSS. And then below the input, we need the button, type of submit, with a class of btn primary. This nice button here. And then we need, just below the form, you can actually see just below the form, we're gonna have a UL with the ID of to do list, with a class of, sorry, it's actually a UL with the ID of to do list and the class of list group. So we leave it like that. So that's all that we need to do in our HTML file. On index.js, what we want to do, the first thing is to select the DOM elements. So the to do format selects the form element, all right, from the HTML document with the ID to do form, and then the to do input selects the to do input, or the input element with the ID of to do input. And then finally we will have to do list that will select so this will select the unordered list element with the ID of to do list. All right, so these variables, they actually hold references to the corresponding HTML elements, allowing us to interact with them in script. All right, now the next thing to do is to actually load the task from the local storage. And so we're gonna load the task from the local storage. So when the page loads, so we're gonna say add event listener, and then we can listen for DOM content loaded, and then we're gonna call a function called load a task. So here we add an event listener onto the document that triggers the load task function once the DOM content is fully loaded. So this just ensures that any task that is saved in the local storage are loaded and displayed when the page is opened, right? And then we need to add an event listener to the form. So we adding an event listener to the form that triggers the add task function when the form is submitted, right? And then the next thing that we need to do is to actually add a new task. So what we can do, we will create a function called add task. Now what this does, it prevents the default form submission behavior. Okay, all right, so we actually retrieve on this line, we retrieving and trim the input value, and then now what we need to do, we need to check if there's nothing, if the input is empty. So we'll say if a task test is empty, then return. So if the input is empty, the function returns early. All right, and then we need to create a task. So first we will create a task element, create a task element. So this is a function that we will actually call. Then we'll so now we create a new task using the create task element, and then so it's a function that we actually going to create now. And then what we want to do is to move the task to do list dot append child. So we move the task in there, and then the final thing, we will store task in local storage. Right, again, it's actually a function that we will create that will store the task in local storage for us. So we're clearing the input field basically there. Now let's go ahead and create another function to create a task element. Okay, let me just add a comment there. So this is to add task, so meaning we have a function. So if you want, you can always make sure we copy that one, create task element. So the first thing we need to do is to create the li document. So we'll say const li document to create the li element dot create element. li, and then we add a class on the li class name. I mean, if you're interested on Bootstrap, you can actually, they've got a full documentation. You can just go there and check all of these Bootstrap classes that we're adding here. Then we need to create a span that will actually hold the text. So we can just say span document dot create element, span. So the span will actually hold the text for us. Then you say span dot text content, the text. Then we need to create a delete button. Remember, we should be able to create a, we should be able to delete. So we say btn const btn and this document dot create element, add an event on click dot on click, then we're gonna just delete task, call a function called delete task. Now we also need to create another button that will say the task is complete. And dot create element button. All right, and then finally we need to append the children. Append child. What is this? li dot append child span, and then li dot append child complete button, and then finally li dot append a child delete btn, and then we return li. All right, so we returns the fully constructed list item with its line here. All right, so I'm gonna end here for today, and then we will